The heart of the question is whether all Americans are to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities, whether we are going to treat our fellow Americans as we want to be treated. If an American, because his skin is dark, cannot eat lunch in a restaurant open to the public, if he cannot send his children to the best public school available, if he cannot vote for the public officials who represent him, if, in short, he cannot enjoy the full and free life which all of us want, then who among us would be content to have the color of his skin changed and stand in his place? Who among us would then be content with the counsels of patience and delay? 100 years of delay have passed since President Lincoln freed the slaves, yet their heirs, their grandsons, are not fully free. They are not yet freed from the bonds of injustice. They are not yet freed from social and economic oppression. And this nation, for all its hopes and all its boasts, will not be fully free until all its citizens are free.
Yesterday marked the 50th anniversary of the address that you heard there, President Kennedy speaking to the nation after a day of turmoil in the state of Alabama. On June 11, 1963, Vivian Malone and James Hood became the first black students to successfully enroll at the University of Alabama. Alabama's governor at the time, George Wallace, famously stood in the door of the school. He only moved under the threat of arrest from the Alabama National Guard. President Kennedy chose to federalize the state's National Guard, a move that helped ensure that the two students enrolled. The speech you just heard a portion of was televised later that evening. And Dominic, a bunch of thoughts ahead. First of all, people forget 50 years ago is not that long, but 50 years ago, you couldn't sit down at a lunch counter in Alabama. You couldn't vote. You couldn't do a whole host of things that you thankfully can now in this country. And it's part of the reasons why pictures of Jack and Bobby were with Dr. King in a lot of households of color in this country. But I also remembered that that speech, from what I read, changed minds. And the race speech that President Obama, then candidate Obama, gave when he talked about that his grandmother would cross the street. And you know, I thought that was the best speech in Philadelphia he's given, period. But I don't know if it changed a mind or changed an opinion or something. And it says where we are today as a country, that people come to the position watching the Foxes or the MSNBCs, and they already know, their minds are already made up before any president can open his mouth.
I agree with you. I don't know if the speech that President Kennedy gave, if it'll be as effective today. I mean, given the similar circumstances.
He was immigration if he was talking about
right, if it was immigration. I just don't see it because, again, you know, depending on where you stop with the remote, it's so partisan and so vicious on either side. And so, but I do agree about President Obama's speech in Philadelphia. Those that felt uncomfortable with an African-American president, that was the day that they started the process to feeling more comfortable with him.
It's just a sidebar. The aforementioned Mr. Paul, he thought that forcing a restaurant in 2013 to force people of color, whatever their colors may be, he thinks it should be up to the restaurant and the proprietor. It shouldn't be forced by federal law and big government. So while we've made strides here, some of the conversations we have, I wonder if we're going back in time. I want to save a little bit of time at the end to do a special acknowledgement here. We're going to get to that after this, so stay with us.